While the council debated and the Meridian waited, Katie Lawson made a decision. She would not sit on Earth and watch from a distance. She had found the barrier. She had broken it open. Now she wanted to see what was on the other side. She built a second ship. It was smaller than the Meridian and had no military crew. It was a science vessel, made for asking questions, not for fighting. She called it the Pioneer. Ryan Harper joined her, of course. He had been with her since the beginning, and he was not going to stop now. They gathered a small team of scientists and engineers, people who wanted answers more than they wanted safety. "This is crazy," Ryan said as the Pioneer launched from Earth. "We do not know what is out there. We do not know why they are afraid of us. We could be flying into a trap." Katie smiled. "That is why we have to go. Someone has to find out the truth." The Pioneer flew through the breach in the barrier. Unlike the Meridian, it did not head toward the fleet of warships. Katie steered her vessel in a different direction, toward a signal she had detected on the edge of the sealed zone. "There is a ship out there," she said, pointing at her screen. "Smaller than the others. Different design. It is not part of the fleet." They found the ship hiding behind an asteroid. It was smooth and silver, covered in strange symbols. When the Pioneer approached, the ship did not run or attack. It simply waited. "They are hailing us," Ryan said. Katie opened the channel. A face appeared on screen. Gray skin, 4 eyes. "Young and curious. I am Thesson of the Vothany," the alien said. Her voice was translated by some technology that Katie did not understand. "I have been studying the sealed zone for many years. I have read the Forbidden Archives. I know what your species did 10,000 years ago." Katie leaned forward. "Then tell me. Because we have no idea. We did not even know the barrier existed until 3 years ago." Dassan's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "You truly do not know? Your own history has been lost?" "We were Bronze Age when the barrier went up," Katie replied. "We had no writing, no records. Whatever happened 10,000 years ago, we have forgotten it completely." Thesson was quiet for a long moment. Then she transmitted a file. "These are the records from the Forbidden Archives. I made a copy before the Council could destroy them. I believe you deserve to know the truth about your own species." Katie and Ryan watched the records together. The images were old and unclear, but the story they told was incredible. 10,000 years ago, the galaxy had been ruled by the dominion of the Eternal. They were a species of immortal conquerors. They did not age. They did not die of natural causes. They had lived for millions of years and had spent most of that time building an empire. 3,000 worlds belonged to the Dominion. Every species that tried to resist them was destroyed. Every rebellion was crushed. They had technology so advanced that it looked like magic. Ships that could travel between stars in moments. Weapons that could crack planets in half. Armies of soldiers who felt no pain and never stopped fighting. Then they found Earth. The humans at that time were primitive. They had just discovered how to work at bronze. They rode horses and lived in small villages. They had never seen an alien before. The Dominion decided to add Earth to their empire. They sent a small force to conquer the planet. It should have been easy. It should have taken days. It did not. The humans fought back. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they refused to surrender. When their bronze weapons broke against Dominion armor, they built new weapons. When their villages were destroyed, they retreated to the mountains and forests. When their leaders were killed, new leaders rose to take their place. The Dominion sent more soldiers. The humans killed them. The Dominion sent better weapons. The humans stole them and learned to use them. The Dominion tried to starve them out. The humans ate roots and insects and kept fighting. The war lasted 11 years. At the end, the Dominion was gone. Not defeated. Gone. Every single one of them. An immortal empire that had ruled 3,000 worlds for millions of years was wiped out by a species that had barely invented the wheel. How? Katie whispered. How is that possible? Thiessen appeared on screen again. Her voice was soft. That is what terrified the council. They studied your species after the war. They tried to understand how you had won. And what they found scared them more than the Dominion ever had. What did they find? Humans never give up. Never. Other species will surrender when the odds are impossible. They will accept defeat to save their lives. But humans do not do this. They fight until the last one is dead, and even then, their children pick up their weapons and continue. Thiessen pulled up more data. It is not just your refusal to surrender. It is your ability to adapt. The Dominion was powerful, but they never changed. They had conquered the galaxy with the same strategies for millions of years. Humans changed their strategies every day, every hour. You learned faster than any species we had ever seen. You took Dominion technology and improved it while the war was still happening. Katie felt cold. So the council sealed us away because we were too dangerous. That is what they told themselves, Thiessen said. But I have read deeper into the archives. I have found the truth that even most council members do not know. Ryan leaned forward. What truth? Thiessen hesitated. Then she spoke slowly. The council was formed by the species that the Dominion had conquered. They were slaves and prisoners and victims. When the Dominion fell, they were free. But they were also afraid. Afraid of us? Katie asked. Afraid of what you represented. Humans did not just defeat the Dominion. You inspired others to resist. During the war, slave species began to rebel across the galaxy. They saw what humans were doing on that small blue planet, and they found courage they did not know they had. Thiessen's eyes were bright with emotion. The Council did not seal Earth because you were dangerous. They sealed Earth because you were hope. And hope, in the wrong hands, can destroy empires. Katie sat back in her chair. The truth was bigger than she had expected. Humanity had not been locked away as a punishment. They had been locked away as a weapon. A weapon the Council could use if the Dominion ever returned. Is the Dominion really gone? She asked. Thiessen did not answer at first. When she did, her voice was barely a whisper. We thought so. For 10,000 years, we believed they were extinct. But recently, our long-range sensors detected something at the edge of the galaxy. Ships. Old ships with a design we had not seen in millennia. Katie felt her heart stop. The Dominion is coming back? Not coming back. They were never gone. They were waiting. And now, for some reason, they are on the move again. Thiessen looked at Katie with all four of her eyes. The Council sealed your world because they feared you, but they also kept you safe, protected, hidden, because they knew that one day they might need you again. Need us for what? To do what you did before. To fight the enemy that no one else can fight. To inspire the galaxy to resist. Katie looked at Ryan. His face was pale, but his eyes were determined. We need to get this information to Earth, she said. Now, Thiessen nodded. I will help you. The Council will try to stop you, but I believe they are wrong. The galaxy needs humanity, not locked away, not hidden, free. Katie thought about the Meridian, surrounded by 700 warships. She thought about Commander Scott Ellis, refusing to go back. She thought about Earth, sealed away for 10,000 years. Building and growing and preparing for something it did not know was coming. Maybe that was the point. Maybe humanity had been preparing without knowing why. And now, the moment had arrived. Tell me everything, Katie said to Thiessen. Every weapon they have, every strategy they use, everything you know about the Dominion. Thiessen smiled, and for the first time, Katie saw hope in an alien face. It will take time, Thiessen said. But I believe we have just enough. Outside, the stars burned bright. And somewhere in the dark space between galaxies, an ancient enemy was waking up. 10,000 years ago, the Galactic Council made a choice that would change everything. They gathered in their great chamber, a place made of light and floating stone, and they voted. The vote was simple. One small planet in the outer edge of the galaxy would be sealed away forever. The species living there would never know what happened. They would never reach the stars. The planet was called Earth. The beings who made this choice were afraid. They had seen something on that small blue world that filled them with terror. The humans were primitive back then. They used tools made of bronze. They rode horses. They had not even invented riding yet. But something about them was different. Something about them was dangerous. Ambassador Krelvith of the Vathani species was young when the vote happened. He had 4 eyes, gray skin, and a mind that could remember everything. He remembered the day the barrier went up around Earth. He remembered the fear in the council chamber. He remembered the words spoken by the High Elder. They must never leave that world. If they do, everything will change. Now, 10,000 years later, Krelvith was old. He was the last living being who had been there. The last one who remembered why Earth was sealed. Everyone else had died. The records had been destroyed. Only he knew the truth. He stood in the same council chamber, looking at the new members. They were young. They had never known war. They had never known fear. The galaxy had been peaceful for so long that they had forgotten what danger looked like. Counselor Yanara floated beside him. Her body was made of living crystal, and she glowed with soft blue light. She was curious about many things, but she had learned not to ask about the sealed world. No one talked about Earth. It was forbidden. "You seem troubled," she said to Krelvith. The old ambassador did not answer at first. He was looking at a screen that showed the barrier around Earth. For 10,000 years, that barrier had held. It was made of quantum energy and dimensional locks. Nothing could break it. Nothing could pass through it. The humans inside did not even know it existed. "Something is wrong," Krelvith finally said. His voice was tired and weak. "The barrier is changing." Far away, on the planet that had been sealed for millennia, a woman named Katie Lawson was working in her laboratory. She was a physicist at the Nevada Research Institute, a place where scientists studied the mysteries of the universe. Katie had spent her whole life asking questions. It was what she did best. 3 years ago, she had found something strange. Her instruments had detected an energy field at the edge of the solar system. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Energy fields did not just exist in space for no reason. But she checked her data again and again, and the result was always the same. Something was out there. Something artificial. Her colleague Ryan Harper walked into the lab with 2 cups of coffee. He was tall with messy brown hair and glasses that he always forgot to clean. He had been working with Katie on this project since the beginning. "Any changes?" he asked, handing her a cup. Katie shook her head. "The field is still there. But look at this." She pointed to her screen. "The energy signature is not natural. Someone made this, Ryan. Someone built a wall around our entire solar system." Ryan sat down and studied the data. He had seen it many times before, but it still amazed him. "A wall," he repeated. "Who would build a wall in space? And why? That is what we need to find out." For 3 years, they had studied the barrier in secret. They did not tell the government. They did not tell other scientists. Katie knew that if she went public with this discovery, everything would change. People would panic. Governments would fight over what to do. She needed to understand the barrier first. And now, after 3 years of work, she finally understood something important. "I think I know how to break it," she said. Ryan almost dropped his coffee. "Break it?" "Katie, We do not even know what it is. We do not know who put it there or why. Breaking it could be dangerous. Staying inside could be worse. Katie pulled up more data on her screen. Look at this. The barrier is not just keeping us in. It is keeping something out. Or maybe it is keeping us hidden. Either way, someone did not want us to leave this solar system. Do you not want to know why? Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Of course he wanted to know. Every scientist wanted to know. That was the whole point of being a scientist. What do you need? He asked. Katie smiled. I need you to help me build something. Something that can crack open a hole in that wall. Just a small one. Just enough to see what is on the other side. It took them 7 months to build the device. It was not big or impressive. It looked like a metal box covered in wires and blinking lights. But inside that box was the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. Katie called it the key. On the day they turned it on, Katie and Ryan stood in a bunker deep underground. The key was in orbit, attached to a satellite that Katie had launched in secret. She held the remote in her hand and took a deep breath. Ready? She asked. Ryan nodded. Ready. She pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screens in front of them went wild. Data flooded in from every sensor they had. The barrier around Earth shook. A crack appeared in the wall that had held for 10,000 years. On the other side of the galaxy, alarms began to ring. Ships across 100,000 worlds received the same message. The barrier had been breached. The humans were waking up. In the council chamber, Krelvith watched the screens with horror in his 4 eyes. The crack was small, but it was growing. The key was working better than its creators knew. It is happening, he whispered. They found a way out. Counselor Yanara turned to him with fear in her crystal eyes. What do we do? Krelvith did not answer. He was too old and too tired for this. He had hoped he would die before this day came. He had hoped the barrier would hold forever. But deep down, he had always known walls could not hold humans. Nothing could. We must prepare, he finally said. The galaxy is about to meet the species we locked away. And when they learn the truth about why we did it, everything will change. On Earth, Katie Lawson watched the data on her screen and smiled. The crack was open. For the first time in 10,000 years, humanity could see the stars. She did not know what was waiting for them out there. She did not know about the council or the barrier or the ancient fear. But she knew one thing for certain. They were not alone. And soon, they would find out why they had been locked away. The truth would terrify the galaxy. But first, it would terrify her. The crack in the barrier grew larger every day. Katie Lawson and Ryan Harper watched from Earth as their key did its work. Within 2 weeks, the hole was big enough for a ship to pass through. Within a month, it was big enough for a fleet. The world changed when the news broke. Governments held emergency meetings. Scientists argued on television. Religious leaders prayed for guidance. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Who had locked humanity inside their own solar system? And what was waiting on the other side? The United Nations came together and made a decision. They would send a ship through the barrier, an exploration vessel with the best crew humanity could offer. The mission was simple. Go through the hole, see what was out there, come back and report. Commander Scott Ellis was chosen to lead the mission. He was 42 years old with gray eyes and a calm voice that never showed fear. He had been a pilot for 20 years and had led more missions than anyone else. He was the best choice, and he knew it. His crew was small but skilled. Lieutenant Amy Nguyen was his communications officer. She could speak 12 languages and had a gift for understanding patterns. First Officer Nathan Cole was a former soldier who had become an explorer. He was strong, smart, and loyal. Chief Engineer Lisa Brennan was the one who had helped build their ship. She knew every wire and bolt in it. The ship was called the Meridian. It was not a warship. It had no weapons. It was made for exploration, for discovery, for first contact with whoever might be out there. The world watched as the Meridian launched from Earth and flew toward the hole in the barrier. "We are approaching the breach," Scott said into his communicator. The whole world was listening. Billions of people held their breath. The Meridian passed through the crack. For a moment, everything went dark. The screens flickered. The ship shook. Then they were through, and the stars looked different on the other side. "We made it," Amy said softly. "We are outside." Nathan looked at the scanner and froze. "Commander, we have a problem." Scott walked to the scanner and looked at the screen. His calm expression did not change, but his heart began to beat faster. There were ships out there. Not one or two or 10. There were hundreds of ships. They were huge and strange and covered in lights. They were waiting. 700 ships, Lisa said, reading the data. 12 different designs. They must be from different species. Amy touched her earpiece. "Commander, they are hailing us." All of them. At the same time. The message appeared on screen. It was translated into English by some technology that Scott did not understand. The words were simple and cold. "Return to your world. The barrier will be restored. You will forget this happened." Scott read the message again. He looked at his crew. Nathan had his hand on a weapon that would do nothing against 700 warships. Amy was pale but steady. Lisa was already calculating escape routes that did not exist. "What do we do?" Nathan asked. Scott thought about Earth. He thought about the billions of people watching. He thought about all the years humanity had spent looking at the stars and wondering if they were alone. He thought about the fear they had lived with since Katie Lawson found the barrier. Someone had locked them in a cage. Someone had decided that humanity did not deserve to see the universe. And now that same someone was telling them to go back inside and forget. "Open a channel to all ships," Scott said. Amy hesitated. "Commander, there are 700 of them. We have no weapons, no defenses. They could destroy us in seconds. Open the channel." She did. Scott stood straight and spoke clearly. He knew the whole galaxy was listening now, not just Earth. "This is Commander Scott Ellis of the exploration ship Meridian. We received your message. We understand what you are asking us to do." He paused. "Respectfully, no. We will not go back. We will not forget. We are here, and we intend to stay." The silence that followed was heavy. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the ships began to move. They did not attack. They formed a wall between the Meridian and the rest of the galaxy. On the Council homeworld, an emergency session was called. It was the first time in 4,000 years that all members of the Galactic Council had gathered in the same chamber. The room was filled with beings of every shape and size. Some floated in the air. Some crawled on multiple legs. Some existed as clouds of gas or living light. High Counselor Morath of the Hegemony stood at the center. He was tall and thin with silver scales and yellow eyes. He was powerful and proud, and he did not like problems he could not solve. "The barrier has been breached," he announced. "The humans have sent a ship through. They are refusing to return." The chamber erupted in noise. 1,000 voices spoke at once. Fear spread through the room like a disease. "Silence!" Morath shouted. The noise stopped. "We must decide what to do. The barrier can be restored, but it will take time. The humans may send more ships before we can seal the breach." A small voice spoke from the back of the chamber. "Perhaps we should let them out." Everyone turned to look. The speaker was a young Vothani scientist named Thyssen. She was small and gray with curious eyes. Let them out? Morith laughed coldly. Do you know what humans are? Do you know why they were sealed away? No, Thiessen admitted. No one does. The records were destroyed. Only one being in this chamber knows the truth. She looked at Krolvith, who sat in the shadows. Perhaps it is time we all learned. The chamber went quiet. Every eye turned to the ancient ambassador. Krolvith felt the weight of 10,000 years pressing down on him. He had kept this secret for so long. He had hoped to die with it. But the humans had changed everything, just as he knew they would. What she asks is forbidden, Morith said. What she asks is necessary, another counselor replied. We cannot fight an enemy we do not understand. We cannot fear something if we do not know why we fear it. Krolvith slowly stood. His body was old and weak, but his mind was still sharp. You want to know about humans, he said. His voice was soft but carried through the chamber. You want to know why we sealed them away. Very well, I will tell you. But know this. Once you hear the truth, you will wish you had never asked. He walked to the center of the chamber and activated a screen. Images appeared. Old images. Images from 10,000 years ago. This is the story of why the galaxy fears humanity. This is the story of the war that almost destroyed us all. And this is the story of why walls will never hold them. The council listened. And for the first time in millennia, they learned the truth about the small blue planet they had tried so hard to forget. Outside, in the cold space between stars, the Meridian waited. Commander Scott Ellis stood on his bridge and looked at the wall of ships blocking his way. They are not attacking, Nathan observed. They are afraid, Scott replied. I do not know why, but they are afraid of us. He did not know how right he was. But soon, he would learn. And the truth would change everything. The warning came too late for the council to prepare. Long-range sensors detected the Dominion fleet 3 days before it arrived at the core worlds. 3 days was not enough time to build defenses. It was not enough time to evacuate trillions of people. It was barely enough time to panic. Admiral Vexen of the combined fleet stood in the command center and stared at his screens with horror. He was a hegemony officer with 40 years of experience, but he had never experienced real war. No one in the galaxy had. The last war had ended 10,000 years ago, and the council had worked hard to make sure there was never another one. Now war had found them anyway. 17 ships, he said to his officers. Each one is the size of a small moon. Our entire fleet could not scratch the surface of one. His officers said nothing. They had no answers. The combined fleet was made for exploration and peacekeeping. Their weapons were ceremonial. Their armor was decorative. They had forgotten how to fight because they never thought they would need to. What do the Dominion want? Asked one of the younger officers. Vexen shook his head. They want what they always wanted. Everything. The Dominion does not negotiate. They do not make deals. They conquer, and they enslave, and they never stop. The council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds screamed at each other. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to run. None of them had any idea what to do. High Counselor Morith tried to restore order, but even his powerful voice was lost in the noise. For the first time in his long life, he felt truly afraid. Ambassador Krolvith watched from the shadows. He was too old and too tired to be afraid anymore. He had known this day would come. He had warned them 10,000 years ago, but they did not listen. We should never have sealed Earth, he said softly. No one heard him. Far away, at the edge of the sealed zone, Commander Scott Ellis received the news. The Meridian had been sitting in space for weeks, surrounded by warships that refused to let them pass. But now those warships were leaving, racing toward the core worlds to face an enemy they could not defeat. What is happening? Nathan Cole asked, watching the fleet scatter. Amy Nguyen listened to the communications channels. Her face went pale. Something called the Dominion. 17 ships. They are going to attack the core worlds. Scott felt something cold in his chest. He did not know what the Dominion was, but he could see the fear in the alien fleet. Ships that had been threatening him for weeks were now running away from something far worse. How many people live on the core worlds? He asked. Amy checked her data. Trillions. Hundreds of different species. It is the heart of the galaxy. Scott looked at his crew. They were explorers, not soldiers. Their ship had no weapons. They had every reason to turn around and go home, to hide behind a barrier and wait for the storm to pass. But that was not who they were. That was not who humans were. Open a channel to Earth, Scott said. The message reached Katie Lawson on the Pioneer. She had been working with Thiessen for days, learning everything she could about the Dominion and the galaxy. When she heard what was coming, she knew what she had to do. We need to send this information home, she said to Ryan. Everything Thiessen gave us. Military strategies, weapons designs, ship blueprints, everything. Ryan looked at her with worried eyes. You want to build an army? Katie, we are scientists. We do not know how to fight a war. We do not have to know, Katie replied. We just have to share what we have. Humanity has been fighting wars since the beginning of time. We are very, very good at it. She opened the communication channel to Earth. The signal passed through the breach in the barrier and reached every nation on the planet. Every government, every military, every scientist and engineer and factory worker. This is Dr. Katie Lawson of the Pioneer. We have made contact with alien species. They are facing an enemy called the Dominion. This enemy is powerful beyond anything we have ever seen, and they need our help. She transmitted the data. Ship designs, weapons specifications, tactical information from Thiessen's archives. 10,000 years of galactic knowledge sent to Earth in a single burst. I know this is a lot to ask, Katie continued. I know we have our own problems, our own wars, our own divisions. But right now, none of that matters. There are trillions of lives at stake. People who are not so different from us. People who deserve a chance to survive. She paused and took a breath. We were sealed away because the galaxy feared us. They thought we were too dangerous to be free. Now they need us. They need what we can do. They need us to be exactly what they feared. On Earth, the world listened. For the first time in human history, every nation agreed on something. They would help. They would fight. They would do what they had always done when faced with an impossible enemy. They would win. Factories that had been making cars and phones began making warships. Scientists who had been studying medicine and physics began studying weapons and shields. Soldiers from every country came together to train for a war unlike any before. It happened faster than anyone expected. Humans did not waste time with debates or procedures. When they decided to do something, they did it. Within 3 weeks, the first human warships were ready. Within 2 months, there was a fleet. Commander Scott Ellis watched from the Meridian as the human ships came through the breach. 47 vessels, each one built with a combination of human engineering and alien technology. They were not pretty. They were not elegant. But they were strong, and they were fast, and they were ready. A new ship took the lead. It was called the Unity, and it was commanded by Admiral Kevin Grant. He was a decorated military leader from Earth, chosen by every nation to represent humanity in the coming battle. Commander Ellis, Kevin said through the communication channel. Thank you for holding the line. We will take it from here. Scott smiled for the first time in weeks. "We are not going anywhere, Admiral. The Meridian may not have weapons, but we can still help. We know these aliens. We have talked with them. We can be your bridge." Kevin nodded. "Then welcome to the fleet, Commander. Let us go save the galaxy." The human fleet moved through space toward the core worlds. Behind them, the barrier around Earth was still cracked and broken. No one bothered to fix it. There was no point anymore. Humanity was out, and they were not going back. Thiessen watched the fleet pass her small ship and felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Real hope. "Do you think they can win?" Ryan asked, standing beside Katie on the Pioneer. Katie watched the Unity leading the fleet forward. She thought about the Bronze Age warriors who had defeated the Dominion 10,000 years ago. She thought about all the wars humanity had fought since then, all the enemies they had faced, all the times they had been told that victory was impossible. "I think," she said slowly, "that the Dominion has no idea what is coming for them." In the distance, the 17 Dominion ships waited. They had crushed 3,000 worlds. They had enslaved billions of beings. They had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, but they had never fought humans. Not really. Not when humanity was awake and angry and fighting for more than just themselves. The final battle was about to begin. The human fleet met the Dominion armada in the space between stars, far from any world that could be caught in the crossfire. Admiral Kevin Grant stood on the bridge of the Unity and looked at the enemy for the first time. The Dominion ships were massive. Each one was larger than any human city. Their surfaces were black and smooth, covered in strange symbols that glowed with red light. They moved through space like predators, slow and confident. 17 ships, said Tactical Officer Megan Torres. Each one has weapons powerful enough to destroy a planet. They are charging those weapons now. Kevin looked at his fleet. 47 ships. Small and new and untested. Against any normal enemy, they would have no chance. But humans were not normal. They had never been normal. That was why the galaxy had feared them. "All ships," Kevin said calmly into the communication channel, "execute pattern Omega." The human fleet scattered. Not in retreat, but in attack. Each ship moved in a different direction, using speed and agility that the Dominion could not match. The massive enemy vessels tried to track them, but there were too many targets moving too fast. The first Dominion ship fired. A beam of pure energy cut through space, bright enough to blind anyone looking directly at it. The beam missed its target by 100 kilometers. The human ship had already moved. "They are slow," Kevin observed. "They rely on power, not speed. That is their weakness." He gave new orders. The human ships began to attack in waves. They would rush toward a Dominion vessel, fire everything they had, then pull back before the enemy could respond. Hit and run. Attack and retreat. The oldest strategy in human warfare. The Dominion did not understand. They had never faced an enemy like this. For millions of years, their opponents had stood and fought in straight lines, easy targets for overwhelming force. Humans did not fight in straight lines. They fought in chaos, in confusion, in constant motion. The first Dominion ship fell after 3 hours of battle. Its shields finally collapsed under the endless attacks, and a team of human vessels swarmed in for the kill. The explosion lit up the darkness of space. The Council watched from their chamber, far from the battle. They had expected the humans to fail. They had expected to see the same defeat they had seen 1,000 times before. Instead, they were watching something impossible. "They are winning," Counselor Yanara whispered. Her crystal body flickered with disbelief. "How are they winning?" Ambassador Krelveth smiled for the first time in centuries. "I told you. 10,000 years ago, I told you. Walls cannot hold them. Nothing can hold them. The battle continued for 16 hours. Human ships were destroyed. Crews were lost. The Unity itself took heavy damage, its hull cracked and burning. But the humans did not stop. When one ship fell, the others closed ranks and kept fighting. When one strategy failed, they invented another. They adapted. They learned. They refused to die. By the 10th hour, half the Dominion fleet was destroyed. By the 14th hour, only 3 enemy ships remained. By the 16th hour, it was over. Admiral Kevin Grant stood on his damaged bridge and watched the last Dominion vessel explode. His crew was exhausted. His ship was barely functioning. But they had won. All ships, he said, his voice tired but proud. The enemy has been defeated. The battle is over. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. The Dominion, the ancient terror that had ruled for millions of years, was gone. Destroyed by a species that had been locked away and forgotten. Destroyed by humans. The council called an emergency session. This time, the chamber was quiet. No one argued. No one screamed. They were too amazed to speak. High Counselor Morath stood at the center and tried to find words. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to say. Ambassador Krulvith walked slowly to the center of the chamber. Every eye followed him. He was the oldest being in the room, the last one who remembered why Earth had been sealed. "You want to know the truth," he said. "The real truth. Not the story we told ourselves, but the reason we were truly afraid." The chamber was silent, waiting. "We did not seal Earth because humans were dangerous," Krulvith continued. "We sealed them because we knew this day would come. We knew the Dominion would return someday, and we knew that only humans could stop them." Morath stepped forward. "If you knew they could help us, why hide them? Why not make them our allies?" Krulvith looked at the High Counselor with ancient, tired eyes. "Because humans do not merely fight. They inspire. They remind other species what it means to resist, to hope, to never surrender." He turned to face the full assembly. When humans fought the Dominion 10,000 years ago, something changed in the galaxy. Slave species began to rebel. Conquered worlds began to resist. People who had accepted their fate for millions of years suddenly found courage they did not know they had. Krulvith shook his head slowly. "We did not fear humans because they were dangerous. We feared them because of what they would teach us to become. If the galaxy learned to fight like humans, to think like humans, to never give up like humans, there would be no more slaves, no more empires, no more councils making decisions for trillions of beings." He looked at Morath. "We sealed humanity away to protect our power, our control, our comfortable peace. We told ourselves it was for the good of the galaxy, but it was really for ourselves." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, Counselor Yanara began to glow brighter. It was her species' way of showing respect. "Then, we were wrong," she said, "and it is time to make things right." 6 months later, Dr. Katie Lawson walked into the council chamber as Earth's first official representative. She wore a simple uniform with no medals or decorations. Behind her walked Commander Scott Ellis, Admiral Kevin Grant, and Ryan Harper. They were not conquerors. They were not warriors. They were humans doing what humans had always done, exploring, learning, moving forward. Dason was there too. She had become the first alien to request asylum among humans. She said they were the most interesting species she had ever studied. She wanted to see what they would do next. "The Council recognizes Earth," announced the new High Counselor. Morath had resigned. The old ways were ending. Katie looked at the assembly of alien species before her. She thought about the 10,000 years her people had been locked away. She thought about all the stars they had never seen, all the worlds they had never visited, all the friends they had never made. "We do not want your power," she said simply. "We do not want your fear. We came out here to explore, to learn, to meet all of you. We have been locked away for a very long time, and we have a lot of catching up to do." She smiled, and for the first time, the council smiled back. Not all of them, but enough. It was a beginning. "Besides," Katie added, "those Dominion ships came from somewhere. They did not build themselves. Whatever sent them will eventually notice they are not coming back. When that day comes, we should probably be ready." The chamber went quiet. They had not thought about that. The Dominion had returned after 10,000 years of hiding. Someone had sent them. Someone had been controlling them. And that someone was still out there. Kevin Grant stepped forward. "We beat them once. We can beat them again. But next time, we should do it together. Humans and aliens. All of us." Krelvith, watching from the back of the chamber, felt something he had not felt in millennia. Hope. Not the fragile hope of fear, but the strong hope of confidence. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time, it was changing for the better. The meeting ended with agreements and plans. Earth would join the galactic community. Trade would begin. Knowledge would be shared. And together, they would prepare for whatever was coming. That night, Katie stood on the observation deck of the council station and looked out at the stars. Ryan stood beside her, quiet and thoughtful. "Do you think we are ready?" he asked, "for whatever comes next?" Katie thought about the long road that had brought them here. The barrier, the discovery, the war, the truth. She thought about all the humans who had fought and died so that this moment could happen. She thought about the future, bright and uncertain and full of possibilities. "No," she said honestly. "We are never ready. But we go anyway. We always have." She looked at the stars and smiled. That is what makes us human. The galaxy stretched out before them, endless and unknown. Somewhere out there, an enemy was waiting. Somewhere out there, challenges they could not imagine were preparing to test them. But humanity was awake now. Humanity was free. And humanity never gave up. The stars burned bright. The future was waiting. And for the first time in 10,000 years, humanity was ready to meet it.